All right. Okay, this is actually part 2. So the first part of Henry and Ribsy, yes, I started today in the classroom. So if you end up watching this first, you're going to miss half of the chapter. You need to go back. If you haven't seen the other part, you need to go back and watch Wednesday, March 18th, the first half. And that's where I'm in the classroom with the students I had today. All right, and now everyone's going to be watching the second half from home. And Henry and Ribsy were in the middle of a chapter. I'm sorry, there's dog hair everywhere. And Henry had just scared Scooter by pretending he was a ghost, and Scooter's all, oh, I knew it was you all the time. Yeah, right. Anywho. You know what? Said Henry. My dad's going to take me salmon fishing this year. That ought to impress Scooter. Haven't you ever been fishing? Said Scooter. Yeah, I've been fishing. Not salmon fishing, said Henry. Well, he had been fishing. Once, he and his mother and father had picnicked beside the sandy river when the smelt were running. The river was so thick with the little fish that people dipped them out of the water with nets. Henry didn't have a net, but he used an old stocking cap to scoop up some fish. His mother had cooked them for dinner, so it really counted as fishing, even though he didn't intend to let Scooter know exactly how he had caught the fish. Yeah, my dad took me salmon fishing last year, boasted Scooter. Henry might have known Scooter had already gone salmon fishing. He was 2 years older, and he always got to do things first. Catch anything? Henry asked. A silver side, answered Scooter proudly, as he screwed the valve cap back on his wheel. That's just a little salmon, said Henry. I don't call 15 pounds so little, said Scooter. I bet I catch a chinook, boasted Henry. I would like to see you, sneered Scooter. Why, they weigh 20 or 30 pounds. You couldn't land a chinook even if you did get one to bite. I could too land one, said Henry. No, you couldn't. I know. I've been salmon fishing. You haven't, Scooter said. And then he called, so long, and pedaled away. You just wait. I will too catch a salmon, yelled Henry. Oh, that old Scooter, he thought. He needn't think he's so smart just because he got to go fishing first. Al gave the car a few more pish-tush with the grease gun and hurried off to sell some more gas. Ribsy looked up at Henry as if he wished he would just come down. Pretty soon, fellow, said Henry, wishing something would happen. Sitting up on the grease rack wasn't as much fun as he had thought it would be. While Henry was wishing something would happen, a police car stopped in front of the supermarket next door to the service station. The officer got out and hurried into the market. Boy, oh boy, thought Henry. Now something's happening. Maybe somebody's holding up the supermarket. If he comes out shooting, I'd better duck. 3 M85 standby, blared the radio in the police car. Jeepers, thought Henry. I bet that means headquarters is going to send help. If the burglars get out and try to escape, I'm in a good place to watch where they go. Yes, sir, it's a good thing I'm up here. I'll be the lookout, and I'll keep my eagle eye out on the door, just in case any suspicious-looking people come out. Henry slid down in the seat and peered over the edge of the car door. With his eagle eye, he saw a lady with a baby come out of the supermarket. She was followed by a man on crutches. Maybe the crutches are a disguise. Maybe when he gets around the corner, he'll throw them away and begin to run. I better watch him. Pish tush, went the grease gun. 13L10, meet 13A9, blared the radio in the police car. Here comes help, thought Henry. Just at that moment, Ribsy pointed his nose in the air and sniffed. Then he trotted purposefully toward the police car. Now what's Ribsy up to, wondered Henry, forgetting to keep out his eagle eye on the man on the crutches. The officer had not slammed the door of the police car shut when he got out. Henry was horrified to see Ribsy push it wider open with his nose and jump into the front seat. Here, Ribsy, called Henry. Get out of there! The radio suddenly blared forth, 3M85 2nd and Broadway. Frightened, Ribsy scrambled out of the car. The radio was silent. You stay away from that police car, ordered Henry from the grease rack. Cautiously, Ribsy approached the open door of the car. Get away from there, yelled Henry. Ribsy jumped into the police car again. Ribsy! Henry called desperately. Ribsy jumped out of the police car, and in his mouth was a brown paper bag. Ah, Henry groaned. A dog that robs police cars? Oh, now he was really in trouble. Ribsy, drop that! he ordered. Obediently, Ribsy dropped the bag. He looked at Henry, wagged his tail, and tore open the bag with his paws and his teeth. Oh, Henry looked down at the pavement. It was too far to jump. Anyway, he had promised his father he wouldn't open the car door. There must be some way he could attract attention. Say, mister! He called to Al, who was working under the car. Pish tush, went the grease gun. Ribsy, yelled Henry. The dog looked up and wagged his tail. He had a sandwich in his mouth. Drop that, ordered Henry. Ribsy swallowed the sandwich in 2 gulps and poked his nose into the paper bag again. Henry hoped the policeman would stay in the supermarket a long time. He did not want him to see the thief who had stolen his lunch. Thinking it must be nearly time for his father to return, Henry looked anxiously up and down the street. 2 cars drove into the service station, and Al hurried away to sell some more gasoline. Ribsy rolled what looked like a deviled egg out on the sidewalk. He sniffed it and gobbled it up. How do you like that, thought Henry. At home, he doesn't like the eggs he's supposed to eat to make his coat glossy. Ribsy poked his nose into the bag again. Henry wondered what happened to dogs that stole lunches, especially policemen's lunches. At that moment, the policeman came out of the supermarket with a bag in his hand. He looked at the open door of his car, and then he saw Ribsy. Here, you, he shouted. Oh, what's going to happen? What's he going to do to Ribsy? Henry wondered, looking guilty. Ribsy picked up the paper bag and ran between the gasoline pumps. The policeman ran after him. Come back here, he yelled, and tripped on the hose from the pump. Ribsy ran under the car that was getting gas. Come out from under there, ordered the policeman. Al hung the hose on the pump, and the driver of the car started the motor. The sound frightened Ribsy into running out. Oh, I sure wish I could get out of here, thought Henry. Why doesn't Dad hurry up and come back? I'll head him off, Al called to the officer. Ribsy, followed by Al and the policeman, ran around behind the station where Henry couldn't see. He listened to the 2 pairs of feet running back and forth on the cement and wondered desperately what would happen next. Ribsy appeared from behind the station and raced around to the air and the water hoses, where he dropped the bag and looked at the policeman. Henry did not know whether to yell or just slide down in the car and hide. When the policeman was within a few feet of him, Ribsy picked up the bag and dashed past its owner and ran under the grease rack. As the policeman ran after him, Henry was horrified to see him put his hand on the gun on his hip. Don't shoot, begged Henry. Please don't shoot my dog. Surprised, the policeman stopped alongside the grease rack and looked all around to see where that voice was coming from. I'm up here, said Henry in a small voice. Please don't shoot my dog. I know he shouldn't have stolen your lunch, but please don't shoot him. The policeman looked startled to see Henry peering out of the car above his head. I'm not going to shoot your dog, he said kindly. I'm just trying to get my lunch back if there's anything left of it. And here's the picture of Ribsy running past the policeman. But I saw you put your hand on your gun and I thought, Henry began. No, I was just trying to keep it from flopping against me when I ran, explained the officer. Just the same, Henry could not help feeling Ribsy had had a narrow escape. I'm afraid there isn't much left of your lunch, sir, said Henry politely. And then, to Henry's relief, Mr. Huggins returned. What's the trouble? He wanted to know when he saw the policeman talking to Henry. I just stepped into the market to buy a pint of milk to drink with my lunch, began the officer, and then he went on to explain what had happened. What? A pint of milk? There hadn't even been a holdup at all? Wow, Henry was disappointed to learn that the policeman had been on such an uninteresting errand. An old pint of milk? Well, he supposed policemen had to drink milk like everybody else. Mr. Huggins snapped his fingers at Ribsy, who came out from under the grease rack. Looking really guilty, he dropped the tattered bag at Mr. Huggins' feet. Part of a cupcake rolled out onto the cement. Oh, not much left, is there? Said Mr. Huggins. And then he looked at Ribsy. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Ribsy's tail and ears drooped. Henry could see his dog really was ashamed. He hoped the policeman would notice how sorry he looked. What happens to dogs that rob police cars? Henry asked. Do they get arrested or get a ticket or anything? No, the policeman laughed. No, nothing like that, but he'll probably get a tummy ache from eating too much. Oh, Henry was so relieved to know nothing serious would happen to Ribsy that he was able to grin at the officer. It'll serve him right if he does get a tummy ache, he said. After Mr. Huggins had insisted on paying for the lunch, the officer drove away, and Al lowered the car. You old dog, said Henry crossly as Ribsy jumped into the front seat. Look at the trouble you got me into, and now you've got grease on your tail. Mom isn't going to like that. But when Ribsy looked up at Henry and wagged his little tail as if he wanted to be forgiven, Henry could not help patting him. Mr. Huggins looked thoughtful. You know, it seems to me that dog has been getting into a lot of trouble lately. Well, I know he has, but he's still a pretty good dog, said Henry. On the way home, the sight of the Rose City sporting goods shop reminded Henry of salmon fishing once more. Say, Dad, he said, I was talking to Scooter McCarthy. He went fishing last year and caught a silverside. I bet I landed Chinook. I bet... Wait a minute, interrupted Mr. Huggins. I did not say for sure I would take you fishing. I said, we'll see. Oh, come on, Dad, protested Henry. That's the same as yes. Mr. Huggins was silent for a minute before he went on. You know, Henry, I've been thinking it over, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll make a bargain with you about the fishing trip. What kind of a bargain? Henry asked, wondering what his father had in mind. He hoped it wasn't anything too hard because he wanted very much to go on that fishing trip. If you keep Ribsy out of trouble between now and the time I go salmon fishing around the middle of September, I'll take you along, said Mr. Huggins. And that means no complaints from the neighbors about him. Sure, exclaimed Henry. It's a bargain. That's all his father wanted? Come on. It would be so easy as pie. He didn't have a thing to worry about. All he had to do was keep his eye on his dog from now until the middle of September. Less than 2 months. He patted Ribsy, who was leaning out the front window of the car. You're going to be a good dog from now on, aren't ya? Ribsy wagged his greasy tail in Henry's face. Woof, he said. That's a good dog, said Henry. He was sure he wouldn't have any trouble keeping his bargain. If he watched Ribsy every single minute, he couldn't get into trouble, could he? Or could he? There was the time Ribsy ran off with the roast. The neighbors were going to barbecue in the backyard. Do you guys remember that? And the time he stole the 17 newspapers Scooter McCarthy had delivered on Klickitat Street. Remember that? Maybe keeping Ribsy out of trouble until the middle of September was not going to be so easy after all, now that he stopped to think about it. And the more Henry thought about it, the more he wished he hadn't been in such a hurry to tell Scooter he was going fishing. And here's a picture of Ribsy being the good dog that he is. And that, my friends, is the end of this chapter. Chapter 2 is Henry and the garbage. All right, so today is officially our last day of school for at least a month. And so I want you guys to stay safe and stay healthy, spend good time with your family, wash your hands for Pete's sake, and know that I love you, and I'll be back tomorrow to read another chapter. Take care. Love you. Bye.